talk, I just want to point out where Finland is.
Oh, okay.
This green area there is Finland.
Ah, okay.
That's Finland. This is Sweden, and there is Norway.
Okay.
And this is all Russia. The yellow is all Russia.
Scott? Can't hear her. Does she have a microphone?
Can you hear me?
One over there.
I don't like to use the microphone because it distracts me. Can you hear me?
Come sit up first. Yeah, come sit up closer.
Okay.
Now come sit up closer.
I can yell. I can speak out like this. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, really.
Yep.
What did you say?
Yeah?
Can you just show me where Latvia is?
Latvia. Latvia.
I can't hear. I don't have hearing aids. Well, this is Finland. The green. Finland is about the size of Wisconsin.
She asked, where is Latvia?
Latvia is here. This is Latvia. Yeah. And I'm wearing something Finnish. Anytime I wear something nice, it's Finnish. It's kind of warm though. I will have to shed this off. So, I think I will start. Before I get into the war and the history, I want to mention two things that people always ask me. Is it very cold in Finland? It's not. It's about the same temperature as in Wisconsin. And I just compared today with the New York Times. The Helsinki temperature is 56 degrees and ours was 55. So they are very, very similar. And another thing people ask, is the Finnish language very much like the Scandinavian languages or Russian? No, it's not at all. It is a language all by itself. It's not related to any other language, maybe slightly Hungarian, but they will not understand each other. Well, now I get to the war. My brother, I had one brother, and he is a year younger than I. And we were saying to our parents, will you please come take a look at the beautiful sunset? The sky is all red. Beautiful. So my parents looked at each other like parents when they think, should we tell or should we not tell? Well, they said, okay, it's not sunset at all. It is Helsinki being bombed. Helsinki, the capital here, is being bombed, and we live like 120 miles from Helsinki. So that was the sunset for us. And when we had a bomb alarm in the village, we had to go to a potato cellar. You may wonder, potato cellar? I don't understand either why it was called the potato cellar where we went for the Bomberland, because it was a huge hole dug in the ground where we went and we stood there tightly next to each other. And I remember thinking, why are we here? Why are we here? That was the bomb alarm. We were never really bombed because we lived in the country. I will ask you. Of course, I will take questions later.
Well, can't you tell us how old you were when this happened?
Well, I must have been about 8 years old. And then I found my mother's diary not too long ago. And it's interesting to read it because she describes the war very, very accurately. And she's telling that she put us children to bed with our winter clothes on. Now, the reason is that we lived next to a forest and there was plenty of snow. And if we had had an alarm, we would have had to run into the forest and into the snow. And just in case we got an alarm, we had to wear the winter clothes. But that was the only reason. Then I have to tell you about the food. It was terrible. I mean, incredible. And we ate it because there was nothing else, but very often we were hungry. And I went to bed hungry, thinking, when I fall asleep, then I will not feel the hunger. But you know, when you are hungry, you don't fall asleep. So it was just terrible. Have you ever eaten a frozen potato? Frozen potato is slimy, purple, slippery, and just absolutely horrible. I don't remember being sick though. We were skinny. We were very skinny, but we were never sick. I don't remember anyway. And I think, in my opinion, the reason we never got sick was that we had to eat that rancid cod liver oil. The cod liver oil every day. It wasn't just clear, beautiful from a bottle, but it was rancid and horrible. It's the worst thing I can think of ever eating. But I bet that's kept us well. But there was shortage of everything. We slept in paper sheets. Now, the paper sheets were not like hard paper, like you think it would be hard. The paper sheets were like crepe paper. And after 2 or 3 nights in these crepe paper sheets, they were okay. Also, a regular pair of shoes was a luxury. We didn't have any regular pairs of shoes. We just had a leather top and wooden bottoms. The wooden bottoms didn't bend, of course. These shoes were extremely uncomfortable. And the worst of all, that the bottoms were glued to the top. And if they got wet, the bottoms fell off. So we had lots of tops of shoes, but not complete pairs of shoes. There was no means of transportation. There were no cars, and all the gasoline was sent to the front. The little tuk-tuk train between the villages operated with wood pulp. So if this wood pulp got a little moist, which very frequently happened, the tuk-tuk train slowed down or stopped completely, and you could never be sure when the tuk-tuk train would reach its goal. Well, how did we get around? Everybody skied. Skiing was not recreation, it was a necessity. My father had a ski track to his office, and when we went somewhere, we would just stick our skis in the snowbank, and when we got back, there were the skis. And even my 2-year-old youngest brother had skis, but they were just like 2 sticks with a little strap where he put his feet. So, and I remember he got temper tantrums because his skis always went like that. But then, I found my mother's diary where she had drawn pictures of us. And my little brother discovered that skiing with 1 ski was better than skiing with 2 skis. So he has a big grin on his very face, skiing with 1 ski. And everybody helped. It was just amazing. Now, women gave their gold rings, and the money for the gold was sent to the front for whatever was needed. And government gave as a compensation bands, metal bands, not gold, but metal, and these made your finger all black. These are my mother's. And you may ask, why are there 2? Well, I'll make this go around so you can take a look at it. 2, because in the olden days, when you got engaged, you got 1 ring, and when you got married, you got 2. Then in those days, there were no diamonds or any stones or anything like that. So I wear, as a reminder, I married in Finland in the olden days. So we lived in the country in a solitary house, and we were never bombed because the Russians didn't want to waste bombs for 1 single house. So therefore, the relatives from cities sent their kids to live with us. We always had like 2 or 3 extra children with us. And my poor mother, she really had her hands full. She had a lot of work because, of course, in those days there were no washing machines or anything like that. And the worst was that one of the boys that we had, Harry, he was a bedwetter. Oh. That was really too bad. My mother didn't really want to have him, but out of love, sisterly love, she did anyway. But when I go to Finland and I see this Harry, I still think, I wonder, are you still doing that? Well, we had a good time. We kids enjoyed the wartime because we had playmates. And there was very often no school. School was too dangerous. So no school and a lot of extra playmates. But my mother really had her hands full. Also, my mother had 4 brothers. My uncles, they were all in the war. And they came to rest in our house. And just after they were wounded a little bit, I remember my uncle Osmo. He had a huge hole in his arm. And my mother's sister was a nurse, and she was going to bandage it. And my mother said, and don't look, don't go and look. Well, every keyhole had eyes looking. And what I saw, I did not want to see. It was such a bad wound. But very often, the soldiers they didn't get enough time to completely recuperate when they were sent right back to the front, right back to fighting the Russians. Well, very often we enjoyed it, but we kids had playmates and we didn't have to do all the work. Well, now comes what's called Winter War. Russia attacked Finland in November 1939. When a country of 2 million attacks a country of 4 million, that seems pretty hopeless. Russia didn't expect Finland to give any resistance. And it was just a lack of manpower too. Finland had 9 divisions, which was 130,000 men, and Russia had 126 divisions, which was almost 500,000. And many of the Finnish soldiers did not have proper uniforms or anything, no winter clothes for this kind of. It happened to be one of the coldest winters in Finnish history. Now, I remember my husband was very involved, talked with all my relatives, and one of the worst things was that Finns didn't have enough weapons. My uncle was telling my husband, and we had, with a very broken English, and we had no weapons. Well, by the way, the lack of clothing, the sheets that we had been used for clothing for your feet. They were called foot rags. They were stripped into rags like that and wrapped around your feet because there were no warm wool socks. So they were called foot rags. So this was the use for the sheets that we couldn't use. We had to have the paper sheets. Well, Finnish men realized that it was a very bad situation. They had 114 airplanes and 800, Russians had 800 airplanes. And Finns had 40 tanks and Russians had 2,000 tanks. So the situation looks very, very bad. Now what? They sent the Prime Minister Paasikivi to negotiate with Stalin. So Stalin says to Paasikivi, Finland is small and weak. You cannot prevent a great power from invading Finland. This is what Stalin says. So understanding he was. Paasikivi says, you underestimate us, Mr. Stalin. We'll fight harder than you think. And they did. Finns lasted 4 months in cruel, horrible, cold conditions. How did they do it? They all skied. And I want to show you a picture of the Finnish boys. They were wearing white coveralls and they were on skis. So it has been said that one Finn on skis was worth free fighting Russians. I don't know, you want me to put this to go around?
Yes, sir.
So,
Want me to come and get it?
but finally in March, they had to stop fighting. And Russia took, I have marked the area that Russia took. That's called Karelia. And up there. So, Finnish government did not accept these conditions that Russia laid out. But there was sort of a standstill, nothing was happening. 1940, nothing much was happening. But then comes what is called a continuation war. Germany, of all places, in 1941, Germany attacked Russia. And Germany and Finland had made an agreement permitting German troops through Finland. See, they were letting German troops come through Finland to attack Russia. So, in Finland, particularly in Lapland, there were lots and lots of Germans. Finland was never officially an ally of Germany, but ends up fighting against the Russians with the Germans. They selected their war hero Mannerheim, Marshal Mannerheim, to lead the Finnish troops who joined the Germans to attack Russia. Mannerheim was very smart. He did not trust Hitler. He did not want to have any help from Germany. Now, I have to tell you a personal story of that time dealing with the Germans. My father was an international scientist and he had friends everywhere. So one day we were outside and there was a flag, a Finnish flag in our flagpole. And in Finland you put a flag up only if you have some very, very important people visiting you. And next to the flagpole were two horses, two beautiful horses, like we kids had never seen, shiny and gorgeous, lovely. They were the army horses. And inside the house there were two German officers, Dr. Burkhardt and his friend visiting my father. Dr. Burkhardt was my father's friend. And by the way, I'm still in dealing with the Burkhardt family because they invited me to spend the summer with their family of 5 children when I was 17 years old. I spent a lot of time. And we are still in contact with the Burkhardt family. So my father is entertaining these two German officers and they were having a great time. However, 2 days after this, Hitler gave the order of ordering the German troops away from Finland. They were going to retreat through Finland and through Lapland and through Norway, and they were on their way, ordered to burn and destroy everything. So the whole Lapland was completely destroyed and burned down. Over 400 bridges were broken. Everything was completely destroyed. Lapland became no man's land. And no one really knows what the reasoning behind this order was. Just retreat if you were friends with the Finns, but now go and burn and destroy their land. So this is what happened. And I happened to have a friend who was volunteering to clear Lapland, Eva Nannali. And Eva, my friend, was in Lapland and met an American fellow, Elam. And so they fell in love and got married. And Lord and behold, Eva and Elam, of all places in the United States where they could move into after they got married in Finland and moved to the United States, they moved to Milwaukee. And not only that, but within walking distance from us. They were on Newberry Avenue and we were in North Oakland. So I visited Eva many times and discussed her war experiences. And that's when she met Elam. And I asked Eva, was it really that bad in Lapland? Was it really that horrible? And she said, yes, Sinikka, it really was. So this was 1944 when Hitler gave the order of withdraw and burn Lapland. And after that came the armistice. And I never forget, even where my parents were standing, when the radio announced the war has ended. They had talked so much about the war ending that we kids thought that a miracle was happening. And we kids also thought that something would change rapidly. Something really incredible would happen. But nothing happened. Everything remained pretty much the same. So this was the armistice. Finland did not get back the areas. It had lost those 2 areas. And also was to pay Russia $600 million indemnity. The biggest problem was that Russia did not want any money. Russia wanted in goods. And Finland, being a country of agrarian country, didn't have any factories, didn't have any steel or iron or anything like that. Finland had to borrow money to be able to build what Russia wanted. That was very, very sad. But guess who borrowed the money? United States. Finland got the money from the United States, and there were very hard time schedules. They said you have to be paying this or making these things by such and such a time. Finland was not permitted to participate in Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan very much helped Germany and had to give its Russian fleet to Russia. So Finland was really working hard. I remember looking at the beautiful truck and admiring it, and somebody said, oh, that's going to Russia. Everything that we're building and was good was going to Russia. That was the war, what they wanted. Well, Finland had the highest proportion of human lives lost. It also had 500 Karelians from here that had been losing their homes, had to move and leave their homes and move to Finland. I remember when I was growing up, we had an old Karelian couple living on our attic temporarily. And then Finland also had to rebuild Lapland. Lapland had been totally destroyed. So you had to rebuild Lapland. So, but by 1952, Finland had done what Russia wanted. I want to point out this, that we lived with poor food and miserable conditions for a long time after the war. It's not just that war was over and everything was going to be fine. It was very, very, very hard for a long time. We had no clothing, hardly any food, and everything that we built had to go to Russia, so that's the way it was. But Finland did pay, and everything was, by 1952, was paid up. Something very good came from all this, which is very unusual. But you have to look at the positive. When I go to Finland, to Helsinki, I have so many cousins who are just like sisters and brothers, because many of them during the war, they lived with us. So when I go to Finland, it's like a big happy family in Helsinki. Finland also got its reputation because of paying the war debt. I would go to a party here way back when I was first in the United States. People would at the party come and say, "Oh, you are from Finland!" And Finland was the only country that paid its war debt. So that was, I had nothing to do with paying the war debt, but it was very nice to hear. Another thing is that a lot of buildings were destroyed and people were living in miserable housing. Our parents never stopped talking about Aunt Irma, who had 5 children and lived in one room apartment. Here, if you have money, you can buy an apartment. But in Finland, after the war, as fast as they could build apartments and houses, they could not be fast enough, and you have to be on the waiting list. I remember my uncle had 3 children, and he was on the waiting list to get an apartment. So architecture, for this reason, was forced to blossom in Finland. Helsinki has the most modern opera house in Europe. And if you ever go there, take a tour. You can take a tour of the opera house. It's fantastic. My daughter Paula and I were there and took a tour, and then they had a show going, and they said, "We have a few inexpensive tickets left. Why don't you go and see the opera?" So we saw an opera in the opera house. And also Lapland, because it had to be rebuilt, is beautiful, particularly the churches. Lapland churches are the most beautiful in the world. And so, due to the fact that Russia demanded payment in goods, manufactured goods, this was based on the Finnish modern industry. Now, when I was growing up in Finland, times were very different and very tough. I will mention here a few things of today. Finland is the primary one shipbuilder, cruise shipbuilder, and I have a picture. They just this year built the largest cruise ship in the world. It has 20 decks and takes 6,700 passengers. I would never go to a boat like that. So, Finland is #1 cruise ship builder. Also, icebreakers. In the 80s, Cunard Line bought 8 cruise ships from Finland. I'm not a cruise ship person, but that's really remarkable. Like they built that icon of the sea. That's so huge. It's huge. Another thing they have, which is great, is progressive taxation. My brother said it's very difficult to become a millionaire in Finland. Now, this same theory is applied to speeding tickets. If you are very wealthy and you get a speeding ticket, that can be very, very high. Way back, I read somewhere that the head of Nokia, who was multi-millionaire, got a speeding ticket on 100,000. It's unbelievable. But my husband and I experienced this too, because we were sitting in the Mercedes of my brother, who is quite well-to-do. He died 2 days ago. So he was really, really driving fast in the countryside, like 120 miles an hour. We were actually, he'll admit it later, that I was actually scared. I was scared too. Before we knew it, out of nowhere comes the police car. And there are 2 police cars, 2 policemen who pulled him up and took him to sit in the police car in the back seat between the 2 policemen. My brother sat there for the long, long time. And when he was done, he came back and said, I can pay it in installments, which meant something. And then another thing he said, and don't tell my wife. So they are applying this progressive taxation in a clever way. I think that that's good that they charge the rich speeders a lot. Finland is also very modern in regard to women. It was the first country to give women the vote right to vote. 1906.
Wow.
That's when they got the right to vote. And also we had a Finnish woman president 12 years ago. We had a woman president and she was very well liked. She was very good. And then we have had, you might have read about her, because she was written up everywhere, the youngest prime minister a 34-year-old, good-looking, hard-partying woman. And that was the Finnish Prime Minister. And now, for the 7th year in a row, United Nations has voted that Finland is the happiest country, and I don't know what the criteria is. I have no idea. 7 years in a row, happiest country, but that's what it is. According to United Nations. Now, I can be very lucky and happy and proud of the fact that Finland is very prosperous and has lots of beautiful, anything that's beautiful I wear is from Finland. Everything that is gorgeous and beautiful is from Finland. Their living standard is very high, and after the war against this here, they lost a lot of lives and lots of important territory, but they did not lose their independence. So Finland is the only republic in the Scandinavia. Sweden, Norway, and Denmark are kingdoms, and Finland is republic. And Finland is an independent, happy, prosperous republic. And thank you for joining me in Finland.